Yes.
Okay.
Because, you know, what
Click
I've
the
discovered.
record button. So now we're recording. Don't say anything bad, anybody.
What I've discovered, our church does a Facebook thing every week. They get about 50 people, and during the week we get about like 400 afterwards.
Okay.
So I think there's a value to having the archive because people will come later, even if they're not here now. We can, you know, push it out and promote it. So I'm not worried, you know.
I will
Thank you.
Ryan where to find it.
Right. I agree. And the truth is that, you know, the friends, of course, how do I put this? Skew demographically older. Can we say that, Lex?
Ooh,
I don't know, but I'm going to see if I can rename Dr. Styles as Dr.
That would be
Styles.
nice. So he could be himself rather than you. Because we don't need two. Well, one Lex is quite enough, you know.
Come on.
Dr. Styles? Please.
Dr. Styles.
Dr. Styles. It's a very good one.
That works.
Okay, there we go. And now you're getting back out of here.
Can I take I have to let the mask down.
Yes.
You can. Once Lex gets out of the room.
Okay.
You can put, in fact, when you're talking, when you do your talk, I hope you have your mask down.
Will you be able to understand me?
He says he hopes to.
On,
Down.
down.
Down, of course.
Down, off. At the point at which Lex is not in the room,
Okay.
which will be probably right before I do I'm doing an introduction, probably not until 12. What we decided 12:15, Lex.
12:15. Yes. How do you want to be the one to go over the slide? I'm going to really do it. Are you guys okay?
I don't know how.
Okay.
I'm not hearing you well, Lex. You're sort of breaking in and out. Like wrong, like that. And I'm sure Jonathan's going to be here. I'm sure that some of the others will be here too, but they're not here yet. Suddenly, there's a hush that's come across the crowd.
Not really great. It's from my email. What is it? And how to put over it. In telling if I scroll, if it scrolls to you.
Look at this and see while he's scrolling, if it's scrolling.
Okay.
We didn't check if it. Okay, it's moving, but it's not. It's not showing up. It's showing in the wrong thing.
Who's controlling that? You or Dr. Styles?
Lex,
Okay.
I can only do one thing at a time.
Because so you got to wave at him or say next or something?
Yeah.
Oh, Lex's
What?
screen went away. Lex's screen went away.
Yeah,
No, he's still on mine. I mean, or his name is at least.
Right.
Lisa, when I was moving the slide, it changed the PowerPoint view without the screen share view.
I can't hear you, Lex.
I can't either, actually.
When I started changing slides, it went from the slideshow view to the PowerPoint view. So that's what I got to make sure works.
That's what I don't know.
Yes, because I would think we would want the PowerPoint view. And then Roger,
Yes, ma'am.
after you do the introduction, if you and I
We'll mute.
mute and if we turn off our video, the people will probably just see Lex's screen and Dr. Styles.
Okay, let's see. I can go look for that. I haven't
Should be on the
Okay.
bottom of the screen. Like if you hit.
Oh, okay. I see it. I know how to mute. I mute all the time. It says okay, mute, stop video,
So I
participant.
think you just want to stop your video that
Oh,
when
stop
you're ready,
video.
not just in general. If I stop the video, I think we'll have a problem because I'm hosting it.
Yes, but my stop video isn't lit. Let me see something. Oh, there I am. Okay, it does work. Okay. Got it. I've never used it.
I can do mine too. Let me see.
I just never done it. Never had a reason to. There I go. There I am. Okay. And suddenly it's
Number
very
one.
yellow here, like I've been in California. or
You
something.
like this fine? Okay, now it's
This is what I was reading for, wasn't it? Yeah. Page.
Is Lex, is everyone else muted? I mean, other than there's like 11 people here right now.
Yes, they are in as attendees on a webinar, so they can't talk unless I allow them to talk.
I'm
So
in favor of that. And I don't need to talk after I do the introduction either, and I'll mute myself.
same here. Where's the town of Farmville? Is it? I only know that's on Facebook.
You have to wait a few minutes.
Anticipation is
That's why-
making you wait.
Okay.
That's why I'm here.
Oh,
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yes. Something to look forward to.
yes. And Lex,
That's right.
that other person you said that was having trouble also got in.
Good. Okay, we'll start in 5 minutes. So is the PowerPoint going okay, Lex? A hush came over the crowd. What?
No, I have you. Well, if you could see my room, I have a laptop over here and a laptop over here. And I'm doing things on two laptops instead of having one computer with multiple screens. I have to make my life difficult and do two laptops.
I like two screens. When I was working, which was only like a year and a half ago, I loved having two screens because it made it easier to move things from one to the other. Are they
Yeah.
connected?
No.
Oh, it's much easier if they're connected.
Yes. I have an extra screen that I brought home at the beginning of the pandemic, but it never worked with either one of the laptops. And I never bothered doing a help desk ticket because it seemed like too much aggravation.
Yeah, wait, let me see.
She's called Roger.
Okay, okay, Roger, I was it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready, I'm ready.
Okay, I was going to wait till 2015 after. Are we doing any library introduction stuff, Lex, or or plugging that we'll be doing another one next month, or look for our stuff next month?
Roger, you should mention to everyone that we are interviewing Harry Rosenfeld next Tuesday at noon.
Next Tuesday at noon. And they should go to LibCal.
Yep, they should go to LibCal. I don't know if it's in there yet.
But I could just say go to LibCal like that. I don't have to get too.
Yes, and I will go and not to make it live in LibCal right now.
Yeah, we'll just say it's going to happen and then it'll happen. Next Tuesday, the 22nd at noon.
Yeah.
Do you want me to
And
give?
do your announcements a little before 12:15 because please to get started 12:15.
I'll be ready.
Anything else we should say before we go? Because it's 12:15 on start. Are you y'all ready?
We're all ready for this. Here we go. Hi.
Let's do it.
All right, ready? I'll go first, and then Roger, and then Dr. Stiles. So hi,
Okay.
everybody. I'm Lisa I was at the Washington Avenue branch, and now I get to be at the Arbor Hill branch, which is open for appointment starting yesterday. And the Howe branch is open for appointments starting last week. We're here for the Friends Book Talk. Some other things that are coming up that we're having virtual programming I'm curious about myself are the window into Latino art. So for Hispanic Heritage Month, we're having 2 Latino artists and a gallery owner. I think she's from Troy. And that is this coming Thursday night. And there are plenty of seats left for that one. We still have seats left in the Forever Young Book Club. And, people are registering for the one-on-one resume job search help things. We're also partnering with the Red Cross on how to prepare for natural disasters. And now I will hand it over to Roger.
Hi, I'm Roger Green. I'm with the Friends and Foundation of the Albany Public Library. I want to let you know that next Tuesday at noon, we are going to have the editor emeritus of the Times Union, Harry Rosenfeld, at this very site. Tuesday, the 22nd at noon. Go to the library website and sign up on LibCal, LIBCAL, for more information. Also note that the Friends and Foundation are doing a virtual gala in the month of October. Check out our Facebook page about that. And now our speaker today is Dr. Twitty J. Stiles, Professor Emeritus of Biology at Union College. He will discuss his recent memoir, Son of Prince Edward County. Now, Prince Edward County is in Virginia, somewhat east of the center of the state. It is named after a nephew of the notorious King George III. That is, after the second son of Frederick, the king's younger brother, and not after his own 4th son, after whom Prince Edward Island is named. Now, Dr. Twitty was born in a settlement in Prince Edward County in 1927, part of the Jim Crow South. As a result, the story of his move from there through the Korean War into academic biology and a long career at Union College includes a lot of adventures. Consequently, his book is a magnificent example of overcoming boundaries and working hard for what you want and believe in. It is an inspiration to those of any age or race. It's also interesting to read. We are thankful to be looking forward to hearing the professor tell about his life and his book. I present to you Dr. Twitty J. Stiles.
Thank you, Roger. I want to thank the Friends and Foundation of Albany Public Library, Mr. John Skinner, Mr. Roger Green, Ms. Lisa, and also Mr. Alex Barhart. I was born on a farm May 18, 1927 in Prince Edward County. The place where I was born is not even on the map. It's just a tiny village or a place with a name. I lived there with my 7 siblings, 2 girls and 2 boys, from 1927 until 1932. My father realized that the school system was not conducive for obtaining a good education. He decided to move us, the family, to Farmville, Virginia, which is on the map. I recall what life was like in the country versus a small town. I remember the first grade and my reading a book called Dick and Jane. I remember my teachers, the class routine, the importance of being clean, and how to follow instructions and teamwork. When I was in the first grade, all of the youngsters had to do certain things and abide by certain principles. Number one, you had to comb your hair every day. You had to keep your nails clean every day. You had to brush your teeth every day. And they had an inspection. And they had a chart on the wall where you could earn stars if you did what you were supposed to do each day and you followed the rules. But my teachers were all very good, and I had a wonderful time doing from first to elementary school. At home, my father subscribed to several newspapers during the 30s and bought us a radio. We listened to The Shadow. This was a program. It was a mysterious program with The Shadow, and there was no television, so you had to imagine what people were going through at that time. Amos and Annie was a stereotypic anti-Black program. We also listened to Joe Lewis's fight. The Firestone concerts on Saturday with a lady named Jessica Dragonette. She was an opera singer. I don't know if you remember, but there was a gentleman named Guy Lombardo, and his Royal Canadians used to broadcast on Saturday night from Glen Allen Casino. And there was also what was called the Hit Parade. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected in 1932, I believe, and we used to listen to his fireside chat. It used to occur every Sunday. He would talk to the country and let us know how things were going. My life has been influenced by the community, the First Baptist Church, the Sunday school, the BYPU, and members of the community, and my teachers and my friends, and the community. Frequently, I'm asked the question, who are you? Where did you come from? How did you get to the capital district? How did you get to Union College? What did you bring? And why do I have the name Twitty? When I was first born, my name was Winfield Junior Stiles. But the day I was born, my father's only brother, who was named Twitty Stiles, passed away from the typhoid fever. Let me tell you about the format of the book today. The format of the book involves following my life from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. So I'm going to take you back to memory lane. Rob Hope, a famous entertainer, used to talk about thanks for the memories. Other questions that are asked me: why did you write the book? And why I'm so thankful that I went into the Korean conflict or the Korean War. And how did the Korean War influence my going to NYU to study, to earn my PhD, and coming to Clifton Falls? If you read the book carefully, one can pick up certain themes. Number one, the importance of family. Number two, the importance of community. Number three, the importance of church. And number four, of course, the importance of school. And number five, the importance of finding the right mate to live with and to love. I will show you the first picture, please, the map, so that you'll know. Lisa just asked me, where is Farmville? Well, if you look at the picture, you'll note that Farmville is in the middle part, almost southwestern part of Virginia, 60 miles south of Charlottesville, 60 miles southwest of Richmond. It is a farming town, and I'm going to tell you something about it a little later about what it was like there. When I was a child, I just want to tell you exactly what went on in Farmville. So many things happened. Where was it? Okay, anyway. When I was a child, I spent most of my days on a farm, as I told you before. And then later on, we moved to Farmville, Virginia. As you can see, the town was just a small village, and there were quite a few interesting things happening there. For example, it was the center for the county seat, and most farmers and people who lived there would go to town on Saturdays to do their shopping and also for their entertainment, to see a movie or something else that went on at that particular time. I would like to start you off, first of all, and tell you about my father and how important he was to me and what it meant in part of the book. So would you please show the first slide? Okay. My father, is this the same book? My father was an electrician. He was only had an opportunity to go to the fourth grade. He was born in 1898, and he was only able to attend school for 4 years because that was all that was available. But he learned how to read and write and to better himself by continuing education and teaching himself. he was a very skilled electrician. And in the first part of the book, you have to get out your Kleenex and your puffs, because there are some very sad things here. But then also there are some very glad things that will make you laugh and have fun. But anyway, in those days, I was frightened to death. I was 7 or 8 years old. In those days, he worked for the Virginia Electric Power Company, and the VEPCO was responsible for bringing electricity to many of the small towns and villages that did not have electricity. In fact, I was told that he and a man named Flake were responsible for extending electric lines 10 miles from Farmville to Prospect. In those days, cherry pickers, if you look at the picture, you'll see that cherry pickers did not exist. They had not been invented. He and his co-workers had to climb steel electric light poles with cleats on their boots to repair transformers and down lines. Strong winds, snowstorms, lightning, and automobile accidents could down poles and interrupt electric services for days or even weeks. Whatever the situation, he had to answer the call of his job. At an early age, I was afraid that he would never return because of the danger of being electrocuted by hot wires. At age 5 and 1.5, I was old enough to understand that one could be electrocuted if one or one's colleague made a mistake. My greatest fear then was that he would leave home and never return. Some weeks, he would be gone for periods of 2 or 3 days before we heard from him. Living with such a fear at that age was traumatic, because I knew how much my father meant to me and how he cared for his family. He wanted all of his 8 children to succeed and to have a good quality of life. Education was his clarion call for all of us. Thinking ahead about his family's future and well-being, he often said he did not want us to dig ditches, clean streets, or to be sharecroppers. Next one, please. One more. Oh, what is the next page? Okay. What page is that? Okay. When I was writing the book, the editor said that when I sent in the first draft, he said, you talk about yourself and you don't say anything about your family. He said, you have to have and say something about the family and have the reader to relate to them. So on the slide, you can see my family. On the first row is my oldest brother named Luther. My sister next to him is named Florence. My sister next to her is Leora. And I had another older brother named Arsenio. In the second row, the first brother is named Calvin, and there are Lord and Lon, and I'm pictured there. Well, I could write a story about each of them, but I'm not going to write a story. But in the book, there's something to keep you scintillated about each of them that will make you laugh, and some of the things will make you cry. The next picture. Oh no, please leave it there for me. I want to tell you, first of all, about one brother named Lloyd. Lloyd was one of the twins, and he enjoyed wine, women, and song. One day, he met a girl named Evelyn and moved into her home with her parents and his sisters. They cohabited together for many years. He had a very good job at Sparrows Point and always took me under his wing. He made sure that I didn't do anything while I was going to school. Lloyd liked his drink and was a scoundrel until one day something hit him and told him that he must change his ways. At that time, he did not attend church and was not a Christian. It turned out that he had met a young lady named Annie, and they had started dating. She was a devout Christian and attended a church that some folks consider the only for holy rollers. The holy rollers were very vocal and responded loudly to the pastor's sermon. It was predominantly a mega church called that they attended called the Bible Way, located on 3rd Street in Washington, D.C. Their services were very long, with a fire and stone message that had women fainting and members running up and down the aisle. Many nurses were present to revive people who had fainted or collapsed in a frenzy and needed to be brought back to reality. When I was at college, one Sunday I attended the church, and the Reverend C.L. Franklin from Detroit was the guest speaker. One would have thought the Holy Ghost was present. There were so many amens, yes, sirs, come on, and Lord, if you please, coming from the audience. The most interesting event of the day was when Reverend Franklin introduced his 12-year-old daughter, Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul. Aretha Franklin passed last year. She was the guest soloist. She was only about 12 years of age at the time, and when she sang, she brought the house down with her voice, stage presence, and song. The worship service lasted over 3 hours, with the money plate passed almost about 5 times for one cause or another. I left there that day, never dreaming that Aretha Franklin would suddenly or someday become a world-famous entertainer. But she did. And I was so pleased to know that I had seen her in her formative years. So that was about my brother Lloyd. Which one is the next one?
You at age 14.
Where was that?
That's the Powell bookstore.
Oh, yeah. What page is that?
63.
Okay, 63. Okay. This one is going to make you cry. Get your puzzles. Chapel's bookstore. I entered high school in 1939, and my class was the second to go to the so-called news school. I worked mornings, afternoons, and all day Saturday for 4 years at Chapel, Fountain, and Bookstore. It was located on Main Street for the movers and shakers in formal went to renew their energy, shop, and get the latest gossip. The store was divided in 2 parts. On the left side, there was a soda fountain and sandwich shop with a few booths and some tables. And on the right side, they sold books, candy, cigars, cigarettes, and stationery supplies. There was no division of labor. I did everything from making chicken salads and ham salad sandwiches to scrubbing the floor, washing the windows, restocking the shelves, serving coffee, and answering the telephone. I was happy to let other employees make change and handle the money, because if the money came up short, I didn't want them to accuse me of stealing. For all that time and energy I devoted to this store, I was paid the sum of $1.50 for the week. I was smart enough to know what child labor laws were and knew that in my case, they had been violated. But I was trapped. I had tried to save the money I earned each week because the bank was only a few yards away from the store, and I wanted to go to college at that time. I had to buy my own book with no discount, and I worked in the store. I did not know how to address this unjust situation, but I knew that for a fact that the store was exploiting me, and that was another scar in my psyche that I carry with me today. People don't understand why sometimes we act the way I do in certain situations. This was because I was exploited when I was younger. I don't let others attempt to cheat. I don't let others attempt to cheat me or exploit me now. A life lesson learned the hard way. I act with honesty in my transaction with others and expect the same honesty to return to me. Black students never were sold the first edition of books at chapels. Our books have been used by white students and were handed down. I did have the privilege of choosing the best books. However, I took pride in my books despite their used condition and covered them using a brown paper bag with some glue. The thing that remained with me all of my life is how hard I worked at chapel, but I was never recognized as a person. I had to wear white coat, cap, and an apron, and play the role of the invisible boy with no feelings. When I look back, because of the harsh treatment I received, I amassed power and inner strength that one can only learn from such an experience. Those days prepared me to multi-dimensional at a very young age. They also taught me how to read a person's body language and to anticipate where he or she may be coming from. I think that one reason I have been able to survive and persevere is the fact that I've encountered all kinds of people. Having been an invisible object at chapels, my ears were filled with venom, hatred, and prejudice, just spewed like a fiery dragon from some white people's mouths. Nigger, darky, coon, pro, sambo, and other derogatory comments were regularly made about black and sometimes about me. Their words, or the words they used, were stereotyping black as lazy, easygoing, shiftless, and dumb. The customers at chapels did not know that I was smart enough to understand what they were saying, nor did they care. I was invisible. Despite all the bigotry and hurtful words I heard, I was able to save up $500 from there and other sources to help defray the expenses of my first year at Virginia Union University, which is a historical black college and university. I was always felt that in time a change would come, and it did.
Virginia Union, page 86.
What page?
86. 86.
Okay, that was chapels, okay?
The bottom page of 86.
I went to Virginia Union University in Richmond, Virginia, and It was an all-black college. In the 40s, black people could not attend white colleges. It wasn't until the 60s. And so if we didn't have the historically black colleges, many black people would not have been educated, and many people that you know who are in famous positions now attended black colleges. For example, Kamala Harris went to Howard University, Thurgood Marshall, and many, many more that I could tell you about. But at you'll love this one. At Virginia Union University, there were 4 fraternities and 4 sororities, and we had interscholastic football, basketball, and tennis. I pledged Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. It was initiated on May 6, 1946. It was the first black college fraternity in the nation, founded in 1904 at Cornell University, with successive chapters at Howard University and Virginia Union University, respectively. I was greatly influenced by the brotherhood and fellowship within the Alphas. In fact, today, I belong to a chapter here in Albany, a graduate chapter. The Alphas are known as a service officers of love for all mankind. We have many outstanding members and contribute to many social and educational activities in the community. Back to memory lane. Some of you are not born, but you must hear them. During my years in the 40s at Virginia Union, there were panty raids, and they were very, very popular. Even though Virginia Union was a Baptist school and was very strict, the boys had more freedom than the women did. At night, the members of Alpha Phi Alpha would stand outside the girls' dormitory after midnight and serenade them for an hour or so. The magnolias were blossoming, and you could smell the honeysuckles. The young ladies would stand at their windows, wave their panties, and scream with delight how the panty raids took place in such a strict Christian environment still remains a mystery to me. What's it?
93. Page 93.
Oh, page 90. That was quite interesting. But after the panty raids, I don't know if you know or remember, we had people who used to streak, but they were more. That was in more modern times.
90.
Okay, 1 second, 93. Science teacher? Oh, Moulton High School, the science teacher. In the fall of 1944, I matriculated at Virginia Union University in Richmond, Virginia, earning a BS degree in biology in May 48. Subsequently, I was offered my first teaching job at Moulton High School. I accepted it and was assigned to teach science courses. The high school was named after Robert Russell Moulton, a noted educator from neighboring Amelia County. The school was built in 1939 to accommodate 180 students. It had 8 classrooms, 2 bathrooms, an auditorium that held approximately 300 students, and a principal office. All classes had to pass through the auditorium to get from one room to the other. The auditorium had a baby grand piano and removable seats that could be taken up and replaced when needed. It was used for convocations, school choir, drama club, and study hall. The library had some books, however, the science equipment was outdated and often did not function. We did not have a cafeteria, we did not have a gymnasium, we did not have teachers' restaurants, or many facilities for physical education. There was no baseball court, no swimming pool, or anything to help develop the body. During the 2 years I was there, due to overcrowding, 3 plywood shack buildings were constructed to accommodate the students. These shacks had pot-bellied stoves that had been fired up all day to keep the students warm. Some courses had been even taught in a yellow school bus. The conditions were dire. I recall that in 1939, late in 1939, money was appropriated for public schools in Prince Edward County. Most of the funds ended up in the white formal high school, where the physical plant and offices were very superior. It was located on First Avenue with a huge two-story brick building and approximately 2 acres of manicured lawn. It was a wonder that geniuses were not produced there. The white students did not even want for anything, yet we blacks wanted for everything. It's odd how some people still blame blacks for their lack of education, of being in trouble with the law all the time, when for most of American history, blacks have had their subpar educational opportunities at best. When someone has been denied an opportunity for an education and the system discourages that person from obtaining one, who is blamed for the crime and not being prepared for the workforce? All black people are not dumb. We just need an opportunity to pursue a better quality of life. However, even after one gets an education, barriers are in place to keep us from moving forward. This is not only for blacks in the military and academia, but for other races as well. It is, in my opinion, it is the supervisor mindset or the belief that one is inherently superior to another and need not account for his or her behavior towards others. All the struggle against the systematic racial injustice that impacted me in my lifetime, sometimes much has been accomplished, and I'm confident that the barriers to education opportunity may eventually fall. Next picture. Okay. Which is this? What's this? I stayed at Moulton High School for 2 years, from 1948 until 1950, and I was drafted into the Army. I was drafted into the Army at Fort Meade, Maryland, and was sent from Fort Meade to Columbia, South Carolina, to do my basic training. I was lucky because I had a Marine, I had a Marine sergeant. I appreciated my sergeant because he made sure we learned how to take care of ourselves and our buddies. He prepared us to go to the Korean War. He taught us the critical importance of adherence to the chain of command structure, how to listen and follow orders, and how to keep our M1 rifles as clean as a whistle and as neat as a pin. He was a no-nonsense guy. If someone in our barracks messed up, he would awaken us and say, "Be ready for a 5-mile run before breakfast." After training was over, I felt confident I could take care of myself if business called upon. The thing I really enjoyed most was the parade. On Saturday, we had to march in gear in front of the generals and put our best feet forward. When we completed basic training, we were given a 2-week leave. Following our leave, my brothers and I returned to the base and soon learned that our battalion was shipping off to Korea. It was early in the spring of 1951, and things were heating up in the Korean conflict. I, along with hundreds of soldiers and my buddies, with all of their worldly possessions in a duffel bag and a rifle in hand, boarded a ship boarded for the unknown, or Yokohama. Aboard the ship, the sleeping quarters were tight. The air was stale. Our quarters were only yards away from the mess hall, and once I entered the mess hall, I could smell a terrible odor, and that odor made me nauseous. I never did get used to it. We all had to stand up for our meals and endure it. Later, I found out the smell was an insecticide to help control the roaches. It was so pungent that I can still smell it now. On another note, some days we would run into Pacific storms and the ship would roll, pitch, and sway from side to side, up and down. The deck was slippery, and one had to hold on for dear life to keep from being swept overboard. Some nights, when the weather was calm and the temperature was right, I slept on the deck with many other soldiers. I recall on one moonlit night evening when the ocean near our ship was aglow. My training as a biologist made me aware that the light was due to the presence of beautiful phosphorescent protozoans swarming on top of the water. They had glowed like yellow-bellied fireflies. It was as if they had guided and lit up our path across the Pacific to Yokohama. Yokohama, Japan. After disembarking from the ship, our battalion was bused to a camp in Yokohama. No one knew what was going to happen. Because I had a Bachelor of Science degree in biology, I was summoned one day to speak to a captain. He asked me about my college degree and asked me if I wanted to go to Korea. I looked him in the eyes and said, "Captain, I am better prepared to have a microscope than a rifle." And later that day, a miracle happened. We were scheduled to take a train from Yokohama to southern Japan to board a ship that would take us to the war zone. There must have been more than 500 soldiers in line with their rifles and duffel bags, armed with fear about what was going to happen next. As my fellow comrades and I were lined up, each person's last name was yelled over a loudspeaker, and then they boarded the train. When they got to my name, a sergeant said on a loud, booming voice, "Charles, 75." I didn't know why this was going to happen. 3 days later, I received my orders to join the occupation forces in Tokyo. My duties were to be stationed at the 406 Medical General Laboratory in the Department of Zoology. The U.S. Army Medical Corps and Centers for Disease Control, you hear about the Centers for Disease Control every night. Believe me, that's a wonderful unit that we have in our armament, because they take care of each of us every day. We be thankful that we have the Centers for Disease Control. That was Yokohama. Okay.
95.
95. Okay, 1 second. It's basis. The Corn Conflict. I was inducted in the Army at Fort Meade in 1950, and I went to Japan. And the most interesting is not 95.
99.
Okay, 99. From Yokohama to Tokyo, the 406 Medical General Lab. In the 406 Medical General Lab was a standalone unit that served as a place to train and teach Army doctors and healthcare workers about exotic diseases that most American doctors had not seen and only read about in textbooks. It also provided a major laboratory for the Far East Command, specialized in research on communicable parasitic diseases and testing of illegal drugs. Army doctors and medical personnel had to spend at least 6 weeks there before they were assigned to Korea and the Far East. There's a finance building in Tokyo, 105. I was one of many soldiers quartered in the Tokyo finance building where soldiers were housed for sleeping. The finance building was huge and guarded 24 hours per day by military police. There, I met a soldier named Quinones, a Mexican who worked in another department at the 406. He was a compassionate person, and one day, with his Bible in hand, asked me to accompany him to the Tokyo General Hospital, where wounded soldiers from Korea were sent to be treated for gunshots wounds, frostbite, psychological problems, and other injuries. We took a bus to the hospital and arrived at 11 a.m. We went to a ward where they cared for old and new patients arriving from the front lines in Korea. As we walked through this ward, he would stop often and pray for and with many of the injured soldiers. Suddenly, I heard someone call my name. Twitty! I turned around and saw two of my brothers from basic training in South Carolina. They were waiting to be discharged to return by train to fight on the front lines in Korea. While they waited, I recalled how I was glad to see them. During our brief visit, they shared horrific stories of many friends, my friends killed or maimed in battle, and told of the soldiers with self-inflicted wounds to avoid the front line. I recall my sadness as I thought about my squad buddies from Fort Jackson returning to the furor and danger of battle. They asked me to send them cards of cigarettes and other personal items. I often thought about how easy it could have been me lying in a hospital bed and returning to the front lines of the war zone. I was very lucky. After a long day at the hospital, we walked back to the 406 and passed the Japanese Imperial Palace. It was surrounded by a water filled with moat. In the winter, it was frozen, but in the early spring, the warmer temperatures melted the moat ice cover, and we could see dead bodies floating on the surface of the water. In sight, I shall never forget. Another thing that happened I will never forget is when one day I was not feeling well, I went to my quarters to sleep. I saw 4 men coming with a soldier. The 4 men demanded him to open his locker. I pretended that I was sleeping and peeked out of the corner of my left eye. I watched as the men removed a wide-brimmed ladies' hat, a long green evening gown, high-heeled shoes, and a locker full of ladies' things. I was shocked. Apparently, that weekend, the soldier whose locker was searched had attended a same-sex marriage in Yokohama. The Criminal Investigation Division, the CID, took into custody the soldier who was over 6 feet tall and weighed around 180 pounds. He did not say anything to the officer. Later, I learned that he was a son of a Columbia University professor and was a bridesmaid at one of his friends' weddings in Yokohama. When I look back, I didn't know anything about same-sex marriages. I was shocked. In the 50s, same-sex marriages were not heard of. Okay. I would like to tell you about some faces and places, people that affected my life, and give you some more interesting things. As part of the book, what page is that? I have, okay. I speak about people whom I've met from all over the world, faces and places, and I want to mention a couple of people who have made a great importance. Saudi and Ahil. My family adopted Queen Historia, Saudi, around 1975. At that time, faculty at Union, keep going. Yeah, oh yeah, I don't know if we'll get that up. Okay. How much time do we have?
So about 1:15, 1:30.
How much? Okay. Oh, I'll go to the pictures. Start with the pictures.
Which one?
Oh.
Go back a little. Okay, go back a little. Go back a little. Okay, after I left the army, I came back to the state and attended NYU. And after attending NYU, I had a postdoctoral fellowship at the National Medical School in Mexico City. I spent a year there with my wife and spent a tremendous amount of time in the jungle studying exotic tropical diseases that still exist today and still bother many of our soldiers. But I wanted to bring this one up because this one is a disease that's found in the mountains of Oaxaca. And these families live in a community where most of the people are blind, and they're blind because of disease, all river diseases. And the organism that transmits the river disease is a black fly. As you know, we have black flies in the Adirondacks. And what happens when these flies bite an individual, they cause nodules on the upper extremities, and the little larva of the parasite that goes in the body goes to the eyes. And when it goes to the eyes, they die there, and the people become very, very blind. And we had a team of soldiers, of men, not soldiers, but to help try to cure those people. Next slide, please. When I came to Union, these were the people who were there. I think there were about 8 people, and they all are gone. I'm the only one left now, and it was quite interesting. And what I want to tell you, when I came to Union College, it was interesting because we came in September 1965, and we had a very difficult time finding a place to live. There was redlining, all kinds of covenants and whatnot. In fact, I'll just give you one example. One of the professors gave me a newspaper, a real estate newspaper, and said, "Stay off the hill." I didn't know what the hill means, but the hill is Hamilton Hill, where they have some problems from time to time. But anyway, to make a long story short, there were apartments across from the college for rent. And when my wife and I went to look at them, guess what happened? They had already been rented. But one of our white friends, a sociologist, went there afterwards and found out that these people had not rented them. They just didn't want to rent to blacks. But the most damning thing that happened was the fact, because we couldn't get rent, one of our friends at that time had a summer cottage in the Product Hill in Rotterdam. And they said, "Oh, you can stay here until you find some." It was 5 miles out of town, but it was a summer place, and they had a cistern that collected water. And each day, I had to take gallons of water to cook with and to drink, because the water wasn't drinkable. You could take showers with it. And one morning, it got so cold that in September, the temperature went down to about 20, And I went back and I told the chairman, hey, listen, we're leaving here. We're not going to stay. I can't teach and look for a house under these circumstances. Well, he finally found us a place, and we ended up in Schenectady across from the Unitarian Church. Next slide. I was lucky enough to go on a trip to the Washington with the soldiers, the leather stocking soldiers, and we saw all of the monuments. I've seen some of them, but I had a chance to take a picture with Senator Dole. He is the best. He is the best, and he still goes to the monuments and greets soldiers and whatnot. I had met him 25 years ago, and I said, oh, Senator Dole, do you remember? Oh, yes, he said, come and take a picture. So I took a nice picture with him. But that was a wonderful thing because I got a chance to see the Korean monument. And on this Korean monument, if you look at it very, very carefully, you can see all races of men serving the country. It's one of the most remarkable sites to look at. Next one. I had a 90th birthday party a few years ago. I don't have birthdays anymore. I stopped at 90. But anyway, you see this young lady in the middle. Her name is Hamaki. Yes. And anyway, she was a AFS student with us about 25 or 30 years ago. And she spent the summer with us. And we've become very, very good friends. And 10 years ago or 5 years ago, she came with her son because her son had never been to the United States. She spent a week with us. We had a marvelous time. But when I had my wife had my birthday party a couple of years ago, she sent out the invitation, and the first person to respond was Amaki. She and her son, Takitoshi, flew all the way from Japan to spend a week for my birthday. But the most interesting thing happened was that when she was about 15 or 16 years old, we went to Lake George with a friend of ours who had a boat, and all of these youngsters, 15 or 16 years old, had on their bathing suits, and when they got to a quiet place in the lake, they all jumped into the lake, and we didn't know how Maki couldn't swim. So one of our friends jumped in, gave her a life preserver, and took care of her, and she's as happy as a clown and still remembers us each day. But once I was in the Far East with my wife, and we stopped at her home and with her family, and it was a cherry blossom time. It was one of the most beautiful and exciting adventures we ever had. Next one, please. Oh, at the top is my friend Carl George, who wrote the preface to the book, and he mentioned the whole outline of the whole book. And he mentioned Hidden Figures. Hidden Figures was the movie you saw where the black women helped solve some of the problems of NASA. And one of the teachers there was named Dorothy Vaughan. In the movie, she played the part as the computer teacher. She taught me mathematics at Robert R. Morton High School. And believe me, her daughter is on the Zoom, I hope, from Newport News, Virginia, watching this program. I'm a very good friend of her daughter's and very close to her, and we keep in touch. At the bottom of the slide, you will notice that you'll see Carl George, my friend, and my wife, and Carl's former wife who passed away. In 1997, when I retired, not retired, I just went from retirement to still helping the cause. Today, we still volunteer our time, our talent to the cause. And what happened was, to tell you about the racial situation, you'll notice most of these colleges, union, I don't know any college or any place that hasn't had some problems with racism. But anyway, the four of us donated some money to form what is called Unitar. This is an organization that promotes community and diversity, and we give funds to students, faculty, or anyone else who wants to do something to build bridges on campus, on our own campus. And so far, we have raised $103,000. And if the students or a faculty member or anyone comes up on campus with a good idea, we will try and fund it for them. Next slide, please. So that was a field trip that I won't have the chance to tell you, but in Mexico. But anyway, next one, please. And that's, but anyway, I had an opportunity. Yes, I want to tell you about some of the most interesting people you'd ever want to meet, and some of our interesting experiences. And there's one that will keep you on the edge of your seat, named Sade and Io. My family adopted, keep me informed of the time. My family adopted Queenie Sawyer around 1975. At that time, faculty at Union volunteered to be mentors and advisors for incoming freshmen, and we were fortunate enough to be paired with her, a young lady from Lagos in Nigeria. I took her home to meet my family, and soon she became a member. Because I was on campus daily, I kept an eye on her. Furthermore, my wife included her in our family and holiday gatherings and taught her about American culture. She often visited our home because she was more than 3,000 miles away from her family. It must have been very difficult for her to be away from home, family, and loved ones and friends. What a cultural shock. Towards the end of her undergraduate years at Union, she met her husband, Ayo Corker, a physicist at the State University of New York, Albany, and subsequently they were married in Union College Chapel. Aria, our 6-year-old daughter, then, was a flower girl at their wedding. Boy. A few years later, they had a son. He was 9 months old when, sadly, Queenie lost her mother. She and Ayo had to return to Africa to make funeral arrangements, and it was difficult for them to take the baby with them. So they left that baby with us. He was a strong, muscular bundle of joy. He never lacked attention from us, but I recall he was a good sleeper. After the funeral, Sade and Ayo were told that they could not leave Nigeria due to a technical issue with Sade's passport. After marriage, her name changed from Sawyer to Corker, and that created a problem. They were detained for around 4 weeks until they could get clearance to leave from the Nigerian immigration department. It wasn't easy for them. They had to pull as many strings as possible to leave. Finally, they returned home and found that Deji was well cared for. As he grew up, I taught him how to drive. Deji went on to earn his undergraduate degree at SUNY, Albany, and his PhD from Texas A&M. He married a young Nigerian woman named Yeti and invited us to participate in their wedding in London. It was a dual ceremony. The first day was a traditional African wedding service followed by a dinner. The second day was a Christian wedding service held in a huge Anglican church followed by a beautiful evening reception. We want to tell you now, we lived in Mexico for a year because I had a postdoc. Get your handkerchiefs out. Reuben and Addie. In August 1964, we arrived in Mexico City after a 6-week cross-country journey. We stayed in a hotel while looking for a apartment. While in Mexico, I became ill with Montezuma's revenge because of eating some delicious-looking pie. I was sick all night long, and I vomited and had diarrhea. And the Mexican hotel owner said, momentito, and meaning later, Lord. But anyway, our apartment was on the second floor of where Reuben and Addie lived, and our neighbors lived across the street where Reuben and Addie. Addie, he was an accountant, she was a housewife. They had a maid named Angela who took care of cleaning for them. We also were able to employ Angela. She had 2 sons, Tonio and Enrique, who were 4 and 6 years old. Angela and her sons lived on the top floor of the apartment complex where most of the maids and their families dwelled. Angela became a member of our family and was very kind to us. She had a native Indian heritage, and we got along very well with her and her family. Angela talked to us in Spanish, and her boys learned some English from us. We had great conversations. Addie knew that I was a parasitologist and was doing a postdoctoral scholarship at the National Medical School. I told her I was working on intestinal parasite and other diseases. She knew that I was not only concerned about gusanos, which are roundworms, but also harmful amoebas that can invade the body and do damage to the liver, intestine, and other organs. One day, Addie told me, "Me duele mi estomaco," meaning that her stomach hurt because she was suffering from a chronic amoebic infection that flared up. Unfortunately, I was not able to treat her, but I told her to visit the doctor as soon as possible. At Christmas time, we decided to have a Christmas party for the less privileged children in the apartment complex. 60-year-old Patrice lived on the first floor and would greet us with her big smiling eyes and dark penetrating eyes. Her parents allowed us to have a party in their apartment. 10 boys and girls were invited. We had a Christmas tree with all the holiday trimmings and had purchased small gifts for everyone. They sang carols in Spanish, and we taught them jingle bells in English. What a festive occasion. The children screamed with delight, and we were overjoyed to bring some cheer to them. A good time was had by all. When we were ready to leave, Angela came to our apartment to say goodbye, sobbing. I gave her a hug and a sheet of paper with our address. I asked her to write us and keep in touch. She stopped crying, looked at us, and handed me the pencil and paper back and said, "No escribe, senor." We were surprised that our dear friend had not had an opportunity to obtain a formal education. It was sad that such an intelligent person had not been able to read and write, and we have missed her and kept in touch with her over the years. Okay.
So we have about 10 minutes left.
10.
Do you want to take any questions?
Oh, yes. I whetted your appetite for questions, so I'll be happy.
I think that Roger or Lisa have to invite the questions.
Okay.
Let's see. So, I don't see any questions, and I don't know how the audience asks the questions.
Could I ask one? I
Yes.
wanted to know what Dr. Stiles thought of the current Black Lives Matter and justice movement right now.
That's a very great question. Before we answer that, Roger, let's just see if Lisa can explain to our participants how they can ask the question.
I can click on them and ask them if they have a question because I can literally allow everybody to talk. I could just go down the
Oh.
list on the right-hand
But
side.
there's only, okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, so we'll go Roger first because he's here, and then I will just go down the list and say hello and ask if they have any questions.
Super. So you see the screen, everybody's gonna be invited in if they.
Okay. As long as I can hear it.
Did you hear my question? Did
Oh,
Dr.
your
Sells hear
first
my
question.
question?
Roger, I'm not surprised at all because systemic racism has existed in this country since its founding. And I had my first encounter with the police when I was 12. About 5 of my friends and I used to go to the train station to carry the luggage for the college students, the white college girls. It was an all-girls college. And one day, the policeman came with 3 policemen came and tried to catch us so that we couldn't. But the ladies need our help, but they just didn't want us to be there to make 50 or 25 cents carrying the bags 3 blocks. And so I've also experienced it when my brother was 18, a little older, was 18. He was walking down the street in my town, and these white people were blocking the street, so to speak. And he didn't walk out into where the cars, he walked right between them. And an argument ensued. And so the police were called. And he said, he told my father, I think he should get out of town. So when it comes to police brutality, I was born in the situation. I understand the situation, and I know that it's time not to defund the police, but to change what they do and how they do it and how they treat anybody. But I want to ask you this and tell you this. In all my 90 years, I've never seen an example of a policeman shooting a white man or boy or woman in the back. So what does that tell you?
It's very,
Next question.
very interesting, sir.
Okay. Okay, you unmuted yourself, so you know how this works. Hello, outside the area code number person or on the phone person. Do you have a question?
I really enjoyed this very, very much, Dr. Stiles. And I'm reading a lot of books about Black history and understanding better why you feel and express this the way you do. And I hope that things can change.
Well, thank you for your call. It's always good to have people talk about it. You know, I think what happens here, many people are afraid to discuss it because they don't know the language they speak about, and they don't know much about the culture of Latinos and Black Americans. And so that creates a chasm between the two. But we're working on it every day to try to make things better and to build bridges. Because I think the most important thing is communication and trying to understand each other's culture. Because we've been all around the world, and what I have seen, that most people are looking for the same things: a job, a family, a place to live, and to take care of their family and give them an education. And that's what we're doing here in the United States to the best of our ability. But it's hard to erase racism. It's ingrained. It's in people's DNA. And you'd be surprised the number of insults and things that I have experienced in my life. As I read about when I was a boy at the store, when I read about a chapel store, how people feel superior and they believe and Power, the Power play.
Right.
But anyway, I have an email address. If you want to email or call me, I'll be happy to discuss it with you.
I found that. Oh, okay.
Next, does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank-
And thank you for your questions. I'd love to discuss it more when you have time and it'd be more relaxed.
Okay.
If you got my email today, you can reply to my email and I can connect you guys. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Right click. All right.
Oh, Ann Hammond there?
Oh, Ann Hammond, let me tell you about Ann Hammond is the daughter of Dorothy Vaughan, Hidden Figures I was telling you about.
If Anne can unmute herself, she can ask a question. Here she comes.
Hello, Dr. Stiles.
Is this Ann?
Yeah, this is Ann, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud to be from Farmville myself.
Oh, Ann, well, Ann, you're the best, and your family was the best too, and your mother was a jewel. She not only taught math, she made us behave, and she would correct our grammar and keep us alive. A marvelous woman.
Yeah, well, my
Marvelous.
family loved you too.
And thank you so much.
And congratulations, and I've enjoyed this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Ann. I appreciate that.
And I'll talk to you soon.
All right, all the best, and stay well.
Okay, love you.
Love you too.
Okay, now the next person. B.H. Lang.
Oh, Barbara Lang. Barbara Lang is one of my favorite daughters, adopted daughter. We are family. Okay, Barb, what's up? In fact, she read a portion of the manuscript.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
I
Yes.
can't see it.
Okay. No, I enjoyed this afternoon's presentation. Thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Well, thank you for calling.
I don't know that I have any questions. I've just been kind of taking everything in and having read the book, but also just taking in what you've shared with us this afternoon. So I appreciate you being available to do this for us this afternoon.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure. I'm the first person this fall because I was supposed to appear in March, but you know what happened in March. So I was thankful that the friends invited me to be a part.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Jonathan. Oh.
But you know,
John is using an older version of Zoom, so if we want to talk to him, we have to promote him to a panelist. Okay, so. Where'd he go? Okay. He says he will be rejoining as a panelist. And here he comes. Jonathan, can you hear us? He's here, but I don't know. Start video, rename. I don't know if he's not muted.
Let's move to the next person and see if Jonathan gets it going.
Okay. Miranda, if you can unmute yourself, you can talk now.
I just wanted to say thank you very much, Dr. Stiles. Your presentation was amazing and wonderful. And I live in the city of Schenectady, so I will go visit Jackson Gardens and the ginkgo tree and I'll think of you.
oh, thank you very much. have a lot in common.
Okay. Monica? If you can unmute yourself, you can ask a question.
Can you hear me yet?
I can.
Dr. Stiles a few months ago, and enjoyed this presentation, and I'll be happy to.
I think that's good.
That's good.
I heard her say that she met you a few months ago, I think, and that she enjoyed the presentation, but then she kind of cut out.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's John and Monica from the
All right, we have one person left. Pam, if you can unmute yourself, you could talk.
Here I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, I didn't. This is a little different, the Zoom, than other Zooms I'm used to.
Yeah, we did this as a webinar so that we could see Dr. Stiles and his presentation and not as a meeting where we all see each other.
Well, that's fine. I just didn't think I could unmute myself, but I did. I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Stiles. His presentation was wonderful. I haven't read the book yet, but I'm interested. And I think he's adorable.
I was texting my boyfriend and I said, it's a good thing I'm muted because I am cracking up. I wasn't cracking up. And I loved that he said that we should grab our puffs every time that it was a part that wasn't a part.
What a wonderful personality. A lot of strength. Thank you for doing this for us.
Well, thank you for calling in. It was kind of you.
Well, thank you so much to everybody.
Oh.
Again. Okay, so all the participants are muted again, although now they're all on the screen and I don't know how to get rid of that, which is kind of weird. I'll do, but if I do, no.
So, Roger, if you can hear me, please invite everybody for next week.
Oh, yes. So what is it? Next week, there's another webinar or meeting, which I will probably be hosting.
Whatever we call this thing, but it'll be the editor emeritus of the Times Union, Harry Rosenfeld, and he's been we've been trying to get him also for months and months and months and haven't been able to do that for some COVID reason. And we're happy that he'll be here a week from today.
I'm going to clear my schedule, I tell you. All right. Thanks for coming, everybody. Lex, if you want to hop on with a meeting on a Google Meet after this, I can talk to you about setting up the Zooms and all that stuff.
That sounds great.
It's all good.
Yes, thank you, Dr.
Oh, thank you. It was fun. I think the people had some good questions. But, you know, as far as this Black Lives Matter, there's so much to it. You just can't. I don't know if they have a book. Lex, would you make sure you get to the library? I don't know if they have the copies. And you know, I want to
sign it though.
Oh yeah.
Show everybody.
What do I put into the?